Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. In the following collection, we plunge into 6 more true and harrowing accounts linked by a shared instrument of menace, the Ouija board, emerging from the decades of the 70s, 80s and 90s. Each story exposes how the lives of ordinary people can become abruptly ensnared by the invisible threads of the supernatural, as we explore yet more of the potential dire consequences of meddling with the Ouija board. The Incan Warrior. During her teenage years in the early 1990s, Monica and her friend Christy ventured into the world of the supernatural through a Ouija board Monica had been given for Christmas. They situated the board on their laps and entrusted Monica's younger sibling with the responsibility of recording a written account of the proceedings. Soon enough, the planchettes set their fingers in motion across the board, spelling out a series of words. It claimed they were in contact with Savatu, a spirit hailing from the ancient Incan civilization, and who desired a conversation with them. Drawn in by excitement and fascination, the girls made it a daily ritual to communicate with Savatu, greatly enjoying his humour and thought-provoking questions. However, after a few weeks, the messages took a darker turn, transitioning from cheeky to outright threatening. One chilling evening, Savatu asked the girls to come away with him. This was followed by the planchette then violently detaching from their grip to strike a wall. Fear replaced fascination, prompting Monica and Christy to temporarily cease their Ouija board endeavours. But their escape proved challenging as they started to endure blood-curdling nightmares. The nightmares escalated to such an extent that Monica started sleeping with a crucifix around her neck and a Bible within arm's reach. A pervasive sense of dread lingered, accompanied by menacing feelings of constantly being watched and recurring bouts of unexplained depression. Around the same period, Christy's boyfriend expressed interest in the Ouija board. Eager to part with it, the girls readily agreed. The next day, Christy set out to deliver the board, placing it on her car's passenger seat. After a short distance, her car's engine started to fail, puffing out smoke until it finally broke down in the middle of an isolated cornfield. Fearing the Ouija board was once again wreaking havoc, Christy tossed it into the cornfield. Returning to her car, she was comforted when it started up seamlessly without any hint of trouble. For about a year after parting with the Ouija board, Monica continued to sense an eerie presence. Gradually, though, her fear diminished. Despite this, her unsettling memories of the experience were enduring, compelling her to vow never to engage with the Ouija board again. Party Pandemonium. Lon, a seasoned paranormal investigator, author and empath, divulged a disturbing encounter with a Ouija board to his audience on his website Phantoms and Monsters. In his high school days in the mid-1970s, Lon attended a house party in a friend's basement. The gathering was considerably large, drawing teenagers from various high schools. Despite their underage status, alcohol was in plentiful supply. The central attraction of the party was a Ouija board around which a small crowd had gathered. Lon couldn't discern the specifics of their session, but it was clear something unusual was transpiring. A girl participating in the session appeared distressed, frantically declaring that an unseen presence was whispering to her and touching her inappropriately. Furthermore, Lon observed a male participant across from her wearing an unnaturally wide grin that seemed to signal an imminent act of aggression. Disturbed by the unfolding scene and concerned for the girl's well-being, Lon fixated on the grinning man, silently imploring him to cease. But the man's grin transformed into an angry scowl as he suddenly locked eyes on Lon, who was seated on a couch, and lunged towards him. A nearby girl shrieked as the attacker did so, but Lon skillfully evaded him, wrestled him onto the couch, and immobilised him. Additional help soon arrived, and the attacker's fury swiftly evaporated, replaced by shock and remorse at his own actions. Just when the situation seemed to have de-escalated, another wave of panic swept the room. A collective gasp emanated from the Ouija board table as onlookers, Lon included, were astonished to see the planchette levitating 2 feet above the table. As if reacting instinctively, everyone scrambled away from the spectacle. Without warning, the planchette plummeted forcefully onto the table, splitting one of its legs and scattering bottles and glasses across all corners of the room. That was the final straw. The party disbanded in haste, and the attendees never dared return to the basement again. In the aftermath, Lon revealed that some attendees struggled with lingering memories of that night, believing the hostile entity they'd invoked was causing various problems in their lives. As for Lon, he frequently advises those willing to heed his words to steer clear of Ouija or any form of spirit board, cautioning them of the potentially dire consequences. The God question. In 1997, after enjoying dinner and drinks at a historic hotel on England's southern coastline, 2 female co-workers found themselves engaged in an intriguing conversation with a pair of hotel staff. The conversation had veered off in the direction of the hotel's alleged spectral residents. Out of the blue, one of the women proposed conducting a séance using a Ouija board to investigate the rumours. Lacking an official board, they creatively assembled a makeshift one from Scrabble tiles and an inverted glass. They initiated the session with the typical question, "Is anyone there?" Initial silence led them to believe their effort was fruitless. But then Claire, one of the women, experienced an odd feeling as if a fog had enveloped her. Then suddenly the glass began to move. "Who are you?" another participant then asked, leading to the glass to spell out the surname of a present staff member. Understandably perturbed, he withdrew his hand from the glass, but it repeated the motion over the same letters. Claire doesn't know what impelled her to ask the next question. Is there a God? The glass reacted by pacing in figure eights, gradually accelerating until it was hurtling across the board, dislodging letters from the table. The horrified participants promptly concluded the séance. Claire and her colleague retreated to their rooms, hoping a sound sleep would unburden them of the night's unsettling events. However, as Claire prepared to retire to her bed, she was struck violently in the back and fell to the floor. Intuitively, she sensed that it wasn't a human perpetrator and remained there petrified, unable to vocalise her fear. After a brief period, she attempted to rise, only to be hit again, this time with an even greater force. Contemplating the malevolent nature of the presence, Claire began to silently pray. Almost instantly, she experienced what she described as a pulling sensation. She collapsed onto the bed, certain that the entity had departed. Reflecting on the evening's events, Claire concluded that her impromptu question during the Ouija session, "Is there a God?" had been a trigger to receive an affirmative response that, while unsettling, instilled a lasting faith within her. Malevolent messages. In 1988, following the passing of Jean's father, her mother May began engaging with a Ouija board, driven by the desire to communicate with her late husband. May's initial fascination with the board escalated into an obsession, particularly after she reported contacting spirits claiming to be her husband and his family members. The spirits initially appeared friendly and cordial, but over time their demeanour shifted dramatically. They began to display hostility and disrespect, even threatening May's life. Despite abandoning the Ouija board, May found the entities persisting in their communication. Although Jean resided a considerable distance from her mother, during her visits she could sense May's torment, a torment elicited by an inexplicable presence. May confessed that she was incessantly surrounded by the spirits, which she described as tiny luminous flames. May relayed messages from the spirits which were filled with obscenities, many of which Jean claimed her mother wouldn't have been familiar with. May even presented physical injuries, for which she also held the spirits to be responsible. At the time, May was in her early 70s, suggesting that the Ouija board was indifferent to the user's age. The energies manipulating it, Jean concluded, were timeless, unaffected by human concepts of age. Nasty Nick. Father Richard, whose name has been changed for professional discretion, is a cleric affiliated with the Pontifical North American College in Rome. He has related an incident from several years ago involving a distressed 16-year-old girl seeking his assistance. She confessed her involvement with a Ouija board through which she claimed to have made contact with a malevolent entity named Nick. This spirit encouraged her to partake in reckless behaviour, such as operating her vehicle during a rainstorm without windshield wipers. Although she was able to dismiss these harmful suggestions, the subsequent assault on her was far harder to disregard. One night she awoke to an intense, suffocating darkness engulfing her, literally sucking the air from her lungs. As she was on the verge of succumbing to the agonising sensation, it abruptly ceased and the darkness dissipated. Shaken to the core, she reached out to Father Richard the following day. The priest conducted a deliverance prayer over her and advised her to discard her Ouija board. Fortunately, the malevolent presence never made a reappearance in the girl's life following that incident. Father Patrick's warning. Father Patrick, whose name has also been altered for privacy reasons, is a Roman Catholic exorcist. Maintaining a low profile due to his role as a parish priest, he frequently delivers talks to high school students regarding the perils associated with the Ouija board and other occult practices. He recounts an instance involving a student who reached out to him shortly after starting college. "Father, I'm relieved to have found you," the student announced. "Your warnings were accurate. We toyed with a Ouija board last night, and when I woke up, I discovered scratches scattered all over my back." Father Patrick's discussions emphasise one key takeaway. Engaging in any occult activities, even if merely sparked by curiosity, carries grave risks. He warns no positive outcome ever results from these practices. They offer no safety. He further explains, "You're dealing with a realm you can't command. Evil endeavours to deceive you into thinking you hold power over it, but that's an illusion. It invariably ends in disaster."